I don't think it's an overestimation. So there have literally been about 1 million people plus protesting around the world against COVID mandates and vaccination passports and things like that you probably never heard of. Did you know that this was going on?
I did, but not from the sources you would hope would inform us.
Like someone who's not plugged into this kind of social media ecosphere would probably have no idea that if you look at this map, this is the entire world practically, apart from Asia, obviously. But this is literally dozens and dozens, probably about 50, 60 different places. And so that's probably over 1 million people on January the 5th.
It's not a short number, is it?
No, it's not. It's massive. Sorry, not January the 5th. January the 21st. We're protesting about this. And the thing is, I didn't know about this. Somehow I wasn't plugged into the social media ecosphere that would have told me that this was going on. Because it must have all been done by word of mouth, but it's absolutely enormous. And so I'll just go over the thunderous and deafening silence from the media on this, because it's actually quite incredible. In looking for the Worldwide Freedom Rally, I found on Birmingham Live, there was one article, just one, Worldwide Rally for Freedom. I mean, it's huge.
My God.
Huge crowd, and that's just Birmingham. And yet, just local media coverage. Or Leeds Live, which again, local newspaper, local media coverage, pretty big. Trinidad and Tobago, local paper, which apparently had one article. And then The Guardian doing an article about the Germans protesting.
It must be the only internationalist movement the mainstream media hasn't covered, surely.
Yes. Yeah, no, that isn't the irony of it. That people all over the world are coming together and the media's like, oh, we can't do globalism
Suffers
like
of
that.
the world unites. No, not this one.
Yeah. And the Daily Mail did one article on a protest in Newcastle and Manchester because NHS staff were also, and they, joining anti-vaxxers. I don't think these people are anti-vaxxers. I think they're pro-freedom patriots. But as you can see, they were throwing their uniforms at 10 Downing Street and places like that. Anyway, so yeah, let's just have a look at some of the footage, because it's actually staggering. If we can scroll down a bit and see that thing. This is London, massive, outside of BBC's new broadcasting house, outside the BBC. BBC didn't cover it.
Oh my God.
Not worth covering, according to the BBC. Like tens of thousands of people marching through London. Not worth covering for the BBC. If we go to the next one, you can see they said hundreds, as in totally downplayed. You don't get any zoomed out footage from the BBC. This is just, It's
just astonishing, isn't it? You could see 100 people just from one small part of the screen.
Exactly. And it's mad.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah. But, this was just a short segment on TV. I couldn't find a BBC article about this on their website. Maybe there is, I just didn't see it. But if we go to the next one, we've got a video time-lapse of this. If we can just see it. It's just like huge crowds of people just wandering around. It just keeps going for ages. So we'll just move on. But as you can see, joined by lots of... It just continues. If we go to the next one, that's just hundreds of people. NHS staff who are resigning because they want to make it mandatory to have a vaccine to work at the NHS, which is bizarre because everyone at the NHS will have caught COVID by this point.
Yep.
That's where me and my wife originally caught COVID from when we went in to have our second son, and she got COVID after giving birth, because and hospitals obviously became a major vector of transmission for COVID because you're funneling everyone into two spaces, supermarkets and hospitals. So, okay. But anyway, yeah, so they were throwing their uniforms at 10 Downing Street because, they're
disgusted.
Yes. I mean, they're probably people who are like, my body, my choice, probably feminist pro-abortion activists as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, Steve Baker points out that 73,000 NHS workers he's highlighted there, but it's somewhere between 60 to 115,000 workers have been fired for the NHS for not having vaccines. Are we really in a position to be firing 100,000 nurses?
No.
Like, if you don't know, if you're not from Britain, the major discourse around the NHS is it's underfunded and we don't have enough nurses. There's not enough staff.
Yeah, we don't need more reasons to fire them.
Yes, no. In fact, the opposite is usually the mainstream discourse, but apparently the government doesn't care. But anyway, that's just Britain. Let's go to, say, Canada, where you can see in lots of different cities. This is Toronto, and like in the middle of the snow, you've got thousands and thousands of people standing around. I mean, congratulations and Godspeed to them. If you go to the next one, you've got Vancouver. Again, all of these just huge crowds of people coming out. Then there's Winnipeg. You got the convoy of truckers that Justin Trudeau is busy pathologizing as a tiny fringe of terrorists because they don't think that the government should act like the Nazis. And these truckers, this was a massive deal in Canada. I'm totally underselling it here, but we've got a lot to cover. But they started a fundraiser on GoFundMe to cover fuel and food and things like this. And they raised nearly $6 million.
Wow.
Which is why GoFundMe was like, yeah, we're not going to let you have that funding.
What, they stopped it?
They blocked it, yeah. You can go to the next one, John. You can see that they blocked it when it got to $4.5 million. And they were like, no, not until you tell us what the plan is. And it's like, well, the plan's obviously to distribute the money to the truckers so they don't have to go hungry and they can afford to get home because this is a political act of protest and we should be allowed to fund
What do
this.
they suspect they could do with it? They could be so bad intentioned.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's
Bizarre.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But then Trudeau has been a total Nazi about this, so never mind. But anyway, French Canada is obviously the worst. I mean, this is just like we covered this last week, actually, the French Canadians being absolute Nazis about it. But apparently, Quebec has announced that the unvaxxed are not allowed inside of large stores unless accompanied by a health warden that will monitor them so they do not purchase anything except for food and medicine.
Bloody hell.
Do you remember that we were talking about a coronavirus, like spreading diseases? Really? Is this anything to do with that? Or is this now about compliance? But anyway, this is why people are protesting. This kind of policy is why people are protesting. Anyway, let's go to Australia, where there was, again, Australia has been one of the worst for this, in my opinion. But this is Avi Yemeni in Oz, in Melbourne, just talking to, again, large crowds of people. At least, unlike the Canadians, they get to protest in the sun. In Brisbane, there are another one. If you can get to the next one. Again, look at the size of that crowd.
Yeah, it's not small.
No, this is not small. This is unbelievable. In Sydney, packed, absolutely packed. Just see the scope of the crowd. I mean, like, you've got to remember as well, Australian and Canadian cities are generally a bit smaller because these are quite low population countries. Like, Australia's got like 28 million people and Canada's got like 40 million people, something like that.
Yeah,
and so these are very, very large crowds proportionally.
That's an incredible turnout.
Yeah. And New Zealand, again, another COVID tyranny.
Yes.
Doing the haka there, which is awesome. Massive crowd. People protesting because they think the government shouldn't tyrannize them over a vaccine. No news coverage. Not important.
Unsurprising.
This is not important. On the same day, all around the world, in all of the English-speaking countries. But it doesn't stop with the English-speaking countries. Let's go to Germany, where you've got, it's a big family affair and big protest marches going on. And again, like the Daily Mail covered this. It was another huge protest because, of course, the German government are currently debating mandatory vaccines. Thank God there are some German freedom fighters. Go to France. Again, another country that has been absolutely nightmarish for vaccines and the COVID passport.
It's nice to see they're still having none of it.
Yeah, it is, yeah. The French have been revolting for centuries, and so why break the habit of a lifetime, I guess. But no, fantastic, because France, again, has been another tremendously tyrannical country. Macron, as we covered last week, was coming out and saying, well, look, we're going to... piss you off until the bitter end. And it's like, God.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, and let's be fair, Macron, there have been a few bitter ends for French rulers, so maybe you should think before you speak. But anyway, yeah, Switzerland, I didn't even realise there were problems in Switzerland, but that's a very large crowd. Good for them.
Yeah.
Norway, massive protests. Again, Poland, God bless Poland. Italy, and Italy's been quite bad as well.
Yeah.
Portugal, Spain, and it's not.
This is a more effective movement than any actual attempt at world communism.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredible how many people they can get on the streets. The Netherlands, and again, this is all decentralized. There's no organization that's behind this. There's no Black Lives Matter organization.
People just turned up out of their own volition.
Yes. Somehow they all got together on social media and were like, yeah, we're just going to go for a march. And I somehow missed all of this. Finland, massive. And again, Finland's a country with only like 4 million people in it, 5 million people. So the scope of these protests is huge. And then Austria, again, another small country, but big protest. And South Korea. And there were, of course, more because as I showed you the map earlier, it's just this would have taken forever to go through.
Yeah.
So again, not really much to say about this. I just wanted everyone to know that, by the way, these huge protests were happening. And if you don't live in one of these cities around the world, then you wouldn't have known about this because the media is just not going to tell you.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this video, The Politics of V for Vendetta, in which Carl and John go through the, anarchy versus, let's say, liberal aspects of V and the whole movie. If we go to the next one, you can also follow John on Getter at John Wheatley on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.